Hello, and thank you for joining me. Today we've got something very classic for you. One of the French mother sauces that every versatile cook should have in their repertoire. We are talking Hollandaise. This sauce is based on butter and egg yolks. It is indulgent and wonderful. And when you make it well, you will win all the hearts at the brunch table. So let's just get into it. As I said, it's a sauce based on butter, so we are going to need some butter. But we need to clarify it. But don't worry, it's super easy. Some of you might remember we did it when we made roasty potatoes in the Alps. Anyway, I've got here 200 grams of butter, which is about 2 sticks to my fellow Yanks. And we just get that into a pot and set it over low heat. And the butter will melt. Slowly. And by the time the butter has melted completely, the milk solids will have gathered at the bottom of the pot. Now all we need to do is pour out that clarified butter carefully. And once we get to the bottom, if you want to go the extra mile, you can use a spoon or a ladle to get the last little bit of clarified butter that is hovering just over those solids. Now keep that clarified butter nice and warm. And of course, don't toss out those milk solids. Use it to saute some vegetables or mix it into your scrambled eggs. Now for an extra little French cooking lesson, we will be making a vinegar reduction, similar to a gastrique but without the sugar. This will help add a kick to our sauce, which will be welcome because of how rich and fatty it is. Grab your cutting board, get a shallot, peel it, and then finely dice that shallot. But it doesn't have to be perfect, because we will ultimately be straining the reduction. Once we have our shallot minced, we get that into a pot. Now we need some crushed black peppercorns. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to just use the bottom of your pot. That looks pretty good, and we get that into the pot. Now for vinegar. The choice is yours here. White wine vinegar is probably the most common, but I love a good cider vinegar, so that's what I'm using. I've got a good splash here, about 4 tablespoons or so. With all those ingredients in the pot, we put it on the stove over medium plus heat. Boil that and stick with it because it won't take long to reduce. And then we kill the heat at around this point. It looks pretty dry, but when I tilt the pan, you can still see a little liquid left. If you go overboard and reduce it too much, and it gets completely dry, just give yourself a tablespoon or so of water. But either way, next thing we want to do is strain that liquid. I'm just using this little tea sieve and pressing at everything with a spoon to make sure I get out all the goodness. And there you have it. It might not look like much, but that will give us a little zing in our buttery sauce. Now just set that aside while we separate some eggs. I've got 3 eggs here and I'm cracking them into a shallow bowl. And my preferred way to separate egg yolks out is to just go in with my clean fingers and pass the eggs back and forth a bit until the whites just fall off easily. And while you watch me do that, let's talk about the ratios of this recipe for a bit. We started with 200 grams of whole butter, and I lost around 40 to 50 grams in the clarification process, so we've got about 150 grams of clarified butter. And I've got 3 large eggs here, which is going to give me 3 large egg yolks. You could probably get away with 2, but when I make hollandaise, I'm trying to recreate the version we would make back at Jean Georges. And that one was nearly as thick as mayonnaise. Luxurious. With our yolks separated out, I get those in a pot with just a couple spoons of water and a pinch of salt, and we are going to put that over medium-low heat while continuously whisking until the yolks get thick and foamy. Now, I know a lot of recipes will call for a double boiler, but I think it is perfectly fine to go on direct heat if you are careful. All you have to do is keep whisking, and every once in a while just move the pot off the heat and check in to make sure it's not going too fast, and then pop it back on the heat to keep it going. And before long, your yolks will thicken up. Notice that when I run the whisk through, the line in the yolks holds. That means we are ready to incorporate our butter. I had said to keep the clarified butter warm, and we are talking rather warm, about 140 Fahrenheit, 60 Celsius or so. And I have it in this pot that has a nice little spout on it. In our pan with the yolks, I've dropped the temperature to low, and I keep whisking while I start to slowly drizzle in our hot butter. And if you are a bit timid like me, just go about it slowly. It's a bit of work, but just get in the zone. When I make Hollandaise, I often think of my friend Alyssa. During white asparagus season at JG, she would make nearly an entire gallon of Hollandaise for dinner service on Entremet Station. So I think we can handle a 3-yolk batch. By the way, if it seems like the sauce is trying to split on you at any point, just whisk in a little spoon or two of hot water and see if it comes back to you. And if all goes according to plan, by the time the last drizzle of butter goes into your pot, you'll have a thick, golden yellow sauce. Now I kill the heat, and then drizzle in our little vinegar reduction. Give it a taste to see if it needs a pinch of salt, and that's a done deal, almost. Now you can use that straight away, or if you need time to prep other things on your menu, you can keep it on the burner on the absolute lowest setting, or transfer it to a bowl that you can keep in a warm water bath on the stove. I transferred to a bowl, but then I decided immediately that it would look nicer in the cast iron pot, so I put it in that. I also realized I needed the classic additions of lemon juice and a pinch of cayenne pepper. And now we are truly ready to serve. Just look at it. And what to serve with this royal sauce, you might well ask? Well, if you are going to indulge in such a sauce, you might as well splurge on some white asparagus. Boil them in some salty water. Once tender, get them out of the water and sauce them while they are still nice and hot. Ooh, what a springtime treat. And if you don't have white asparagus in your area, green asparagus with Hollandaise is also a classic. And speaking of classics, let's do a hybrid of eggs royale and eggs Florentine. English muffins are great, but I also love just a nice toasted round of bread. Then we give ourselves a few pieces of smoked salmon. Then for the Florentine element, we have some sauteed spinach here. And then we set our poached egg on our bed of spinach. I'm hoping that yolk is nice and jammy. And now for the piece de resistance, let's give ourselves a generous dose of that Hollandaise. And just because the season is here, let's have a little asparagus for garnish. Oh, yes indeed. Let's just make sure that egg is nicely cooked. Well, I'd eat that. In fact, I did. And now you can too if you follow my lead. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed dipping your toes in this classic buttery emulsion. I showed a couple common ways to enjoy it, but there are many more. Serving with meat and fish, just to name another pairing. So, whip some up and follow your gut. If you liked this video, they've got a button just for you. Do me a favor and give it a click. And make sure to subscribe so my stream of content can flow your way. Free professional insight. And I'm a big fan of feedback, so don't hesitate to speak up in the comment section. For now, I'm getting back to brunch. Until next time, cheers.